Welcome to Rocking Finance, the Rock the Street Wall Street podcast. Real stories, real access, real paths into finance. Join us for candid, high-impact conversations with industry leaders sharing the insights, experiences, career pivots, and journeys that can help young women advance through the financial industry with great confidence. Rock the Street Wall Street equips high school and university students, especially young women, by bringing the M in STEM to life through financial and investment fundamentals. We provide direct industry access and guidance supporting students and young professionals on their journeys from classrooms to careers while expanding participation in the capital markets. Through cohort-based learning, mentorship, and individual career connection, we help students build confidence, capabilities, and networks that open doors. Our goal is clear: expand participation in the capital markets and strengthen the future of finance, one cohort at a time. Today, I'm your host, Ashley Leftwich, CEO of Rock the Street Wall Street. Now let's rock finance.
Tricia, welcome to Rocking Finance. It's wonderful to have you with us. You're an industry leader, a CFA charter holder, and a great friend to Rock the Street Wall Street. We're especially grateful for the CFA Institute's commitment to advancing financial education and the investment profession globally. At Rock the Street Wall Street, we currently have a cohort of students pursuing the CFA Institute Investment Foundation Certificate, and several students have already completed the program with great success. It's been exciting to see how credentialing opportunities are helping students deepen their knowledge and readiness as they explore careers in finance and investing. As we dive into your impressive career journey, from Morningstar to your current role as interim president and CEO of the CFA Institute, let's start with you. You're from Wisconsin, graduated from Northwestern University, and later earned a master's degree in Russian and Eastern European economics from Indiana University. Tell us a little about your college experience and what originally sparked your interest in economics and the financial markets.
I'm excited to be here, and I like the name of your podcast very much. Rockin' Finance is great. I have enjoyed getting to know Rock the Street Wall Street over many years. I think the work that you do is amazing and very valuable to the students, your participants, alumni, the whole network of financial professionals. And as in my current role with the CFA Institute, super glad to support the organization. And I hope that the students are getting a lot of value out of the Investment Foundation's certificate. I'm from Wisconsin relatives and my Packer-loving friends and family, but I did go to Northwestern, and I have spent most of my adult life in or near Chicago. So the question was, why economics and finance? And really what I was interested in was socialism as an 18-year-old and Russian literature. And when I was in school, Gorbachev was in power, and I was trying to understand what was going on and why the centrally planned economy hadn't really lived up to its potential, and why was that country and region transitioning to free market economies. And so that was what drew me in. Plus I wanted to read I was studying Russian because I liked the novels in English, and I had this naive idea that I could read them in the original if only I spent, 2 years learning Russian, which was never going to happen. But through that process, I became interested in emerging markets. I became very interested in what it takes to have a highly functioning capital market and the benefits of that. And then when I graduated, I ended up by chance really working at Morningstar, which was a startup at the time. And I did not have any investing background. I had not even taken accounting, frankly. So I had a lot of work to do to catch up on the finance and investing side. But it kind of came more from that point of view of like using the markets as like a way of thinking about the world and people's connection to their like financial well-being and how people support themselves.
So what a great descriptor of Morningstar as a startup. We hear about that all the time with innovation.
It's funny. I always thought about it as a startup, even after I was there for over 20 years.
I love to hear your ambition, which still comes through today, by the way. And it's something where you're talking about the benefits of highly functioning capital markets And that's what we're all about as well, increasing that participation in the capital markets. Many of our listeners are high school and university students who are beginning to think about their own futures. And I always like the opportunity to throw in how beneficial compounding can be for them. And I have a two-part question for you here. So looking back at your transition from university to your first professional role, what did that look like? Were there mentors, experiences, or lessons that helped shape your path there? And then at what point did you decide to pursue a CFA charter?
My first professional role out of my master's program actually wasn't at Morningstar. I had a brief stop at a real estate development company that was doing work in Poland and Eastern Europe. And my main learning from that short-lived experience and like my best advice is to work with and for people that inspire you. I did not stay very long at that job because the people it wasn't a great place to work. And I remember vividly that my parents were like, you should stay. It's a job. I'm like, no, it's not right. I just couldn't. It wasn't like worth it. And I knew it even at like a kind of a young age. So find people that motivate you and inspire you and kind of allow you to do your best work. So I ended up, as I said, through a chance encounter with somebody at Morningstar, and it was like a night and day cultural difference. And I was writing these research reports, interviewing mutual fund managers, closed-end funds specifically. I didn't really understand their language. I was really like swimming really fast to keep up, and thought that if I did the CFA, I considered an MBA or a CFA, and decided a CFA was more focused on what I wanted to learn and brought so much clarity to the work I was doing. It has really changed kind of the trajectory of my career quite a bit.
Of course. And one thing that stands out throughout your career is that ability to embrace innovation and help organizations evolve. And during your 20 plus years at Morningstar, you helped launch and scale businesses, including the firm's equity research operation, which contributed to the company's broader growth and transformation overall. So you've often brought together investing in research and technology and innovation. What drew you to that work? And what have you learned about meaningful driving change within organizations?
This is the other thing about the CFA program for me. And I think actually for a lot of people, although it's like not as well known, by the time I finished the program, I was very proud. It was very hard. I really didn't want to be a financial analyst anymore. Like I learned while I was doing it, like this is just not my number one joy. I was just doing an interview with the chief investment officer at T. Rowe Price, who wrote a book called The Psychology of Leadership. And I was interviewing him. And a lot of the book is about positive psychology and leaning into the things that you're good at and not beating yourself up over things that you don't like or are not that good at. And I guess I must have had that like intuitively in my head, because by the time I finished and got the charter, which, like I said, I was persistent. I wanted to do it. But then I thought, how can I add value in a different way? I left the research team and moved over to the business team. I was much more interested in building businesses than I was kind of analyzing how other people were investing in businesses. And that was a great fit for me and a great fit for the firm. So I ended up in a variety of business roles. I'm really interested in customers and users and problems that Morningstar could solve, and now kind of in the CFA Institute world, problems that we can solve for financial professionals around the world. That's really about the customers and the problems that you're trying to solve. And there's a really good phrase in product management. It's not really specific to finance, but it could apply to any product management, which is love the problem more than your product. And if you think about like what problem exists and how can you solve that problem, like that's really the product is the means to the end, but kind of keep your focus on the user's problem and how you can solve it.
I mean, truly one of my favorite things to do is be a solutionist. There's so much joy in looking at the problem from different sides, looking at the considerations and coming up with some really great opportunities for people or for solutions. And
I find it's like a more creative way of thinking about your work. Like, so you wouldn't like look at a financial analyst or look at me and think like, oh, creative genius. But that's really the part that is sparked in, that's what is sparked in me.
I may look at you that way though.
Thank you. Vice versa.
Well, kind of in that same vein, my parents are technologists. They both are computer programmers, and I grew up around the dinner table actually having conversations that were sparking an appreciation for the power of technology and driving the progress that can happen through thoughtful and responsible courses. And over your career, we've seen technology transform nearly every aspect of the financial services. So what are some of the most significant shifts you've witnessed, and how do you think technology will continue to shape the future of investing and the financial services and responsible I mean this?
It's easy to talk about the technology specifically and changes, but I think somewhat more interestingly is slightly more like extracting out the technology. The real change is in the ability to personalize and customize whatever is happening. And like everything used to be kind of one size fits all in terms of you read the paper, even if it was online, everything is kind of built on whether you've chosen the configuration or whether the algorithm has chosen it for you, and the ability to do that at scale. And there's obviously a lot of pros and cons to that. That is probably the most like fundamental shift, is that like individual level of targeting or customizing and how we respond to that and build community and also understand like other perspectives. I mean, we could go way off the topic of finance, but in investing in particular, right, that it makes things in many ways much easier, because if you're thinking about financial planning or your goals, it doesn't have to just look like somebody who has really nothing in common with you. And it also drives down cost, which is in investing context and financial planning and so forth. That's a really amazing thing, that you don't have to have a trust fund in order to have personalized guidance and advice.
Absolutely. Kind of shifting gears to look at the leadership lessons that you may be able to share with our listeners. So we've talked about how you've had like the solutionist innovation drive, and there are, I imagine, many transferable skills and leadership lessons that have helped you navigate the different sectors that we've talked about and those different stages in your career. So how have they shaped the way that you build teams and create cultures where people can thrive?
When I started at Morningstar, I had been in kind of a toxic culture for a short amount of time. I loved the amount of autonomy and trust that was part of the Morningstar culture, and I think I've carried that with me. People do their best work when they have the freedom to make mistakes and maybe get some coaching or learn from those mistakes and then keep going. And in larger organizations or other corporate cultures, there's this risk aversion that comes into the corporate culture, and it's more about job security than it is about trying something new. That's not the philosophy I ascribe to. The other thing I would say is the importance of humility and low ego, which kind of goes along with that idea that like, it's okay to make a mistake. It's like how you respond to it. That's really more important. If you didn't make any mistakes, you wouldn't have taken any risks. And then like, really, you didn't progress you didn't do anything, if you ask me, if you didn't take any risks.
I think that feedback loop is so important. And one of the pieces of that is if we're sharing and having regular conversations, it's because we care. Sometimes the feedback is seen as something that isn't wanted, but in your point about being around people that inspire you, that feedback really transfers into something much more. And it does allow you to grow in your career, and probably also goes into that positive psychology that you were mentioning.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think sometimes people also forget the importance of having fun and like celebrating victories. Like obviously especially in an era of AI and so much change and constant innovation, it's easy to feel like you're behind somehow. And that's not a great place. That's not a great feeling. I mean, it's nice to have some urgency. Urgency is good, but it's also great to really like celebrate when like a small victory and try to have some fun along the way. So otherwise, sounds kind of trite, but it's true. Like life is just too short.
Absolutely. So the CFA Institute serves a unique role in our industry, advancing ethics, education, professional excellence, and better outcomes for investors around the world. So as interim CEO, how are you balancing continuity and stability with opportunities to innovate and position the organization for the future?
Such a good question. Thank you. The goals that I have are around both like the pillars, like you said, there's excellence in the credential and the quality of the CFA program itself. And then there's the integrity and the ethics. And I would say the third part is the community and the value that it comes from being part of the CFA network. So specifically, the integrity and the quality of the program it's being readily and heavily invested in. There's a lot of new things coming along with localization because it's a global curriculum, skill building, so that in addition to taking like the test, there's actual the skills that employers are demanding that come as part of the learning curriculum. So that's off to the races. The ethics is something in an era of AI that we really want to lean into more, and it changes a lot in terms of how we think about. People talk about the human in the loop, but you also want to think about what happens, who's making the decisions. Like it's not just a human in the loop, it's actually fiduciary responsibility and governance of models and things like that. So there's quite a lot to do in order to ensure that the ethics part of what the CFA Institute stands for and the CFA program specifically is kind of in good shape for where the world is heading, which obviously also has a lot of uncertainty. So it's not an easy job. And then the third part, community, is about ensuring that we are investing in and leveraging the network of CFA societies. So many over 100, and I think it's about 158 local societies that are part of this amazing network. And how do we work with the local societies and also support the members at the end of the day? And we think about it as like a whole life cycle of potential beneficiaries or candidates or members, which includes the CFA program as kind of like the marathon runner. But to your point at the beginning about the investment foundations and people that are maybe not necessarily going down the full financial analyst path, but yet want to be not a marathon runner, but maybe like a weekend jogger. Like, how can we support those people in a way that's meaningful and kind of also adheres to the same ethical standards? Investing across a spectrum of use cases, and then also around the life cycle of practitioners, whether you're early stage, mid stage, pre-retirement, retirement, like kind of building that community and making sure that everybody has a place in the ecosystem that's a big focus for me.
Absolutely. And with Rock the Street Wall Street, we're looking at educating, preparing, and advancing. The education piece is important. And then having that foundation to then have the preparation pieces and advancing them into the career. We've talked a little bit about the credentialing and how that can change how we think about the profession, build us that great platform and foundation. But we're reminded that Rock the Street Wall Street students oftentimes hear of career paths that aren't very linear. Whenever we're looking, yes. So whenever we're talking about career paths and those best opportunities that come in different ways to us, as you're reflecting on your own journey, where were the moments that were unexpected opportunity that ended up shaping that?
Well, the very first kind of detour that I took, just basically because I was in the bad job, and I thought I wanted that job because they had that exposure to Russia and Eastern Europe, but then it turned out like it wasn't. I didn't want to sacrifice like my day-to-day well-being in order to pursue that. That was a huge turning point. And then secondly, as I was going along after I'd gotten the charter and I was doing kind of the building of the different business lines within the context of Morningstar, there was a time I had been working on that equity research business for, I want to say it was a good 8 years. It was a long time for kind of it was a growing business. So it was a lot to stand up. But at a certain point, I actually had also become kind of risk averse and a little comfortable in that part of the business. And it was hard. And I remember going to a lot of mentors and friends and asking if I should move to a different business unit. And it seemed like a big risk at the time. And in hindsight, it was first of all, it was the same company. So how risky was it really? And secondly, I just learned so much by taking on something new. And so that kind of reminding yourself that change is good. When you're early stage, everything is always change. So that's not such a thing. But when you're a little further along, sometimes you have to have a little bit of a kick or a wake up call to realize that you've gotten a little too comfortable. I did also, before we go on, I wanted to circle back to something that you were saying about supporting kind of earlier stage, like you guys do so well, because there's a new opportunity in addition to investment foundations, which we're so happy to support with Rock the Street Wall Street. There's also individual opportunities for associate membership that the CFA Institute has rolled out. So in the past, the opportunity to become a member really only extended to people that had completed the entire 3-year or 3-level CFA program. But the associate membership class is designed for people who want to and are willing to kind of adhere to the ethical standards that are laid out, but are taking either a certificate or a different type of course or have aspirations to do that. So kind of back to the jogger marathon runner analogy, it's a way to have the earlier stage or people that are working in other types of roles kind of be part of the network.
And what a wonderful opportunity that really is, because there's so many people that fall into that category. So as we close, what advice would you share with the next generation as they begin to build their careers?
I guess I would go back to that positive psychology point about starting with reflecting on what it is that you feel is kind of a strength or a source of interest or creativity or inspiration to you, and then trying to navigate from there versus taking some. And I get it that it's hard. I mean, it's not like that's an easy answer because you don't know, but it's okay to try on it's kind of like trying on a couple different outfits, try on a couple and see, and you can always change, because I think careers also will be less linear than they used to be. It's totally fine to try out one path and learn something and then try a different path. I'm kind of a little bit more back to the finding the people that make you your best self around you and work hard and kind of dig in from there.
Tricia, thank you so much for joining us on Rocking Finance. We appreciate your leadership, your support of students and scholars, and the important work that the CFA Institute does to advance the investment profession around the world. Thank you for sharing your insights and experiences with our listeners.
Thanks, Ashley. Always happy to support Rock the Street Wall Street.
Thank you for joining the conversation. Visit rockthestreetwallstreet.com to learn more. Make sure to follow and join us for the next episode. Until next time, let's keep rocking finance.